Welcome, everybody, to the Celtics Double Take Podcast. Dylan McCaffrey and James Kwan here again today. The first place Boston Celtics are 7-3 at the moment. We thought we'd have a few more games under our belt before doing our next show, but the NBA simply will not let us play. Today we'll talk about how the team is doing before COVID hit the fan, and we'll talk about the league's COVID status in general. And before we go, we'll take a look at the other teams in the Eastern Conference. But first things first, as always, we have our best and worst takeaways from the last week. 1 minute apiece. James, you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious worst thing to happen is this whole entire COVID fiasco. I'm a little worried. I'm not going to lie, Dylan. Like, the league is not in a great place right now with this. It's just kind of tough. Like, games are a lot more frequent than the NFL. Everything's indoors. You got people like Kyrie just going out and partying, and we just don't know, like, how this whole thing's to be handled. And, I don't want to make this a COVID podcast. We're not talking about COVID for 30 minutes, but yeah, it's not great. I think everyone knows how not great it is. And let's just pray that, this becomes a resolved issue in the next few weeks. Adam Silver, I trust you. You'll figure this out. Our hopes are in you. Moving away from that, which is a hard thing to kind of push to the side, but we had this little nice 4-game winning streak going on before COVID hit. We looked like we're firing on all cylinders. As the team that we were hoping for this year. Like you said, we are now first in the East. And I think this is something that we could keep up with, and I truthfully, I stand behind that wholeheartedly. So let's see how it goes. Let's see when we get back our players, when this whole thing hopefully gets a little more normalized, how we stack up. But Dylan, how about you?
My best things of the last week, first of all, is Tatum finally ascending into what seemed like MVP form right before he got COVID. Like, we have to rely a lot on him and Brown's jump shots, and Brown's jump shot has been wet all year, shooting like 50% plus from mid-range. But Tatum was struggling a little bit out of the gate. But the game against the Heat and the game against the Wizards, every time the ball left his hand, it was going to go in. Like, that was really encouraging to see, even though now he has to sit inside for 14 days. Other than that, Tacko Fall played his best game of his career the other day, which is always something to celebrate whenever he gets on the floor. So I want to talk about Tacko a little bit later. And the worst thing for me, aside from COVID, is the fact that in the Heat game and the Wizards game, we were supporting double-digit leads in the fourth quarter, and we blew the lead to the Heat, and the lead against the Wizards dwindled quite a bit toward the midway through that quarter. And it just reminds me of last year in the playoffs when we're just running the clock out for a whole quarter and blowing leads, and it was giving me some flashbacks. But we pulled off both those wins, and yeah, those two games are very encouraging. Last podcast, we were coming out saying, like, all right, like, we got a week of some tough, like, winnable games, and at least the first two, the Heat and the Wizards, we came out and we got it done.
Yeah, I mean, now, I guess the upside of this is that Brad Stevens has some extra time to talk some sense into our players in terms of keeping a lead. I don't know how quickly we're going to get back to action. I don't know if you saw Tuscaloosa after the Alabama win yesterday. It looked like when SpongeBob started selling Pretty Patties. It's definitely not a great sight. So who knows when we'll get back to this and when we'll get another hack. But I'm hoping that when we do resume to action, that we could have a 20-point lead and not be sweating in our shoes watching the game. But yeah, moving on. These games, we did look good. And blown leads are blown leads. But what did you see? Like, especially when we were doing well, the first 3 quarters of these games.
The game against the Heat, we had our full roster at that point. I mean, I thought we were firing on all cylinders. Like, midway through that game, we were up by like 15 or 16, and it looked like how, like, a lot of games looked in the Eastern Conference Finals, where, like, we grab a huge lead, and the Heat we've seen are good, but, like, when you just have, like, Dragic and Duncan Robinson out there, like, missing shots, like, there's not really that much to be scared of. But then, as we saw in the fourth quarter, they all can just kind of catch fire all at once. So, Tatum that night had a great game. Jaylen Brown had a great game that night, and our supporting pieces like Tyson Thompson combined put up 20 and 20, 12 and 20. And Robert Williams gave us great minutes that night. Carson Edwards, actually, I thought gave us some pretty good minutes. He struggles when he's out there a lot. I gave him some flack last week. I really do root for him. I was really looking forward to seeing him get big minutes in this 8-on-8 game that was going to happen. But Carson, he passed the ball a lot more and took his role in stride and would just he got some tough layups. And I thought that he gave us the best minutes he's given us since he's gotten here during the Heat game. At the end of that game, I had to watch it a couple hours late. Had it recorded, and I knew it was going to end close based on what my friends were saying. And I was watching the game. I was like, man, there's like a minute left. It's not really a close game. And then 3 straight threes. 2 of them were fouls. Tough to watch us blow a 10-point lead in like 50 seconds.
Yeah, it's become a habit. I will say though, with the Heat, they're like an NFL team with a great quarterback in the sense that when they're down, let's say it's an NFL game, you're down 2 touchdowns or whatever, they have all these 3-point shooters, and at any point they can get back into the game. And just like how you've had a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and like you're down 2 touchdowns, and like you're like, all right, we're just gonna spam pass plays. We're not gonna take up any clock. We're to try to get some efficient points. They could start running some plays. Duncan Robinson can get off 3 ball screens, and they find themselves like never really out of the game in that way. Like they're really good at that, and I want to give them credit. They did play a good game, but I think the important thing is with this particular matchup is that we didn't blow it, and the way that certain guys played. We got some good minutes out of Tatum and Brown, obviously, but I think Pritchard's game winner was kind of not that this was his best game shooting, especially. But he's finally solidified himself as like he's the Mario Chalmers of like our big 3. If our big 3 is Tatum, Brown, and Smart, like he is this guy. And the difference between him and Mario is that I think he has a lot more potential for what he can be, but he's filled in this role nicely. Like I remember back in like I think it was like the 2015 or 16 finals when Mario Chalmers had like 25 points. He like went off in the 4th quarter and secured a victory for them. Like he's the guy that you're like coaches are snapping their clipboards over their knees saying like it wasn't supposed to, it's supposed to be Tatum or Brown, but now we're getting beat by Pritchard.
Yep.
He's becoming one of those players that people are gonna have to prepare for, and hopefully his performance doesn't tail off as more teams do start to prepare for him. But yeah, the biggest takeaway is we didn't blow this game, and I do think, I don't know if you want to talk about more, like Thompson in my mind was a difference compared to last year in our matchup with the Heat.
He played great. No, he did. And honestly, like going into the season, I was saying a lot that we needed like a big 3rd scorer. Like I'm waiting for Kemba to come back, which apparently he might come back soon. That would be a saving grace. But you look at NBA history, like you look at Kareem and Magic or Shaq and Kobe or LeBron and Kyrie or whoever else, like there's a lot of duos that you can just surround them with rebounders and shooters and they'll win championships. And Tatum and Brown are starting to look like just like 2 guys who can just throw a team around because we're in first place, and other than Tatum and Brown, no one is consistently scoring in double digits. Like this is a team that like I was worried about because we lost talented players and didn't replace them with talented players. We replaced them with rebounders and role players. But Pritchard gives us great minutes. Robert Williams gives us great minutes. And you're right, Tristan Thompson gives us really great minutes. 7 rebounds in 19 minutes. That's per 36, like 13 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
So, like, the guys that are coming in to play, like, and we'll get to Tacko later, but Tacko comes in for 18 minutes and gets 8 rebounds. Like, in the short stints that guys are getting on this team, they're playing really well. The whole
100%.
team has played well these last few games.
And I don't want to turn this into an I told you so moment. I don't. But let's dial it back to like 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic. And me and Dylan actually worked the same job at Emerson College. And it might have been every day. I must have been a joy to be around. Probably every day I'd go up to Dylan and be like, we don't need a ball dominant point guard. We don't need this. It should be Tatum and Brown. It's got to be these 2 guys. We don't need Kemba. We don't need Kyrie. We don't need any of this. We just need Tatum and Brown. And rightfully so, I kind of got ragged for it from time to time, especially when Kemba would have a good game. But I truthfully did believe that these 2 guys were the special ones. These were the guys we're going to build around. If we had these guys, would be fine. And that's why I'm so territorial over these assets when we're talking about trading for like a guy like James Harden. It's not that James Harden isn't not a generational talent. He is. It's just I don't want to mess with this. I think it works. I think it works. I think it can work. I think that in a championship sense, I think that we just need to, like you said, we need some Robert Ory's, like we need some Andrew, maybe not Andrew Bynum, but we need some guys to surround because we do have our Shaq and Kobe, and it turns out it's 2 Kobe's. And I'm going to get slammed for saying that, I know. But 2 wing guys that going to be consistent scorers that like you said, are going to combine to get a decent amount of rebounds. I don't see how this doesn't work. And I think we saw that also in the Wizards game when Tatum and Brown combined for, I think, like, I want to say like 70 points. So I don't know. Call me crazy.
So yeah, beginning of the season, we were saying like, how are we going to make it until Kemba comes back, until we get the trade exception? We use that, but now we're in first place. It's only 10 games, but that's 1/7 of the season, and so 1/7 of the season we're through, and we're in first place, and we're going to get an all-star point guard in a week or two, hopefully, and eventually we're going to use the trade exception, and we're going to add more pieces to what should be a championship contender. So right up until this Wizards game, and everything fell apart after that, I was feeling really good. The Wizards game we go into, and Robert Williams gets COVID, and they say that Tristan Thompson and Grant Williams are both under the protocol that they can't play that night. So going into that game, the Wizards don't have great big men, but we're kind of nervous. Like, all right, it's Tyson Tacko. That's all of our big men for the whole night, and Semi Ojeleye, playing some center. And that game went super well. The Wizards are not playing great this year, but everyone on our team had a great game. Tatum and Brown go off again. And I've been wanting to get to it, so let's get to Tacko for a second. Tacko is averaging per 36 like more than 10 blocks. And I don't know if he'll ever be a guy that can play 36 minutes. Like, he looks gassed out there playing 15 minutes. And teams, I'm sure, will figure out how to beat him eventually. But when he's out there, he's like the best defensive player we have. Like,
he's our best shot blocker, for sure.
He is.
Hands down.
And he controls the paint on defense. Like, on offense, we couldn't really find him to get him like the rolls on pick and rolls and stuff. But I think that looking at him from last year to now, like, he should be a part of this team for a while. Like, I think he in 20-minute spurts can give us a double-double in 20 minutes and like with 6 or 7 blocks. Like, I'm really encouraged by what we're seeing from Tacko. He's not just like a circus show. He had a great game against the Wizards.
Yeah, no. This was like such a welcome addition. Like, to be honest, though he's always been a bit of a novelty, I didn't really expect him to take another step this year. Like, am I crazy for saying that? Like, it was just a really cool surprise. And like you said, I do think that because he was kind of forced in this situation due to COVID, that you do kind of look at that and be like, do we put this guy in rotation? It's kind of like when Chris Pratt came on to Parks and Rec, and it was like, oh, we'll keep this guy on for like, 10 episodes, or, he's funny. We'll bring this guy in. And then they're like, oh crap. Like, I think we need to keep this guy around. And I'm not saying that he's going to carry us like Chris Pratt carried that show, but he is everything that we need in terms of a rim protector. That block on Russell Westbrook had me so hyped. And this wasn't a perfect game. We had 3 quarters of dominance, and we, in our bad habits, came back and we blew the lead. But Tacko was not on the floor when that happened, I'd like to add. And also, it's this kind of thing of, it's nice to have. It's not that you need him. It's not that when Thompson comes back that he's in Grant and Robert Williams that Tacko should all of a sudden be our starting center. But it's nice to have. And if any of our big men are struggling, and if they can't protect the rim, we got a guy who does. We got a guy who can. And I think that, I don't know, in my opinion, Thompson, Tice, y'all got to be on guard, because there's a guy coming up, and he not only has the whole city of Boston behind him, he's kind of backing up his hype. And it's one game. I know it's one game. And like you said, teams would figure him out if he was more consistent. But there's not much you can do. like that Westbrook layup, like there wasn't a way you could have attacked the basket that he didn't get blocked. And that's what he brings. That's what he brings to the court.
Yeah, and I want to get into – I was really looking forward to Tacko in these games that are getting canceled now. But before I get into the games getting canceled, just leaving the Wizards game, we did blow a lead in that game. I knew in the fourth quarter when we started and it was like 15-point lead, I knew by halfway through the quarter it'd be a 5-point lead, because we're still like at the end of games trying to run the clock out, and like each possession just take care of the ball, like try not to give them momentum. And we end up just letting them score 10 unanswered because we don't score for 5 straight possessions. I understand the logic behind that, but we're not good enough to do that. And I think that like just from here on out, we need to try and beat teams by 50. Like, we can't let up off the gas ever and run the clock out. It just hasn't worked. It is proving to just be a failing philosophy.
Big Achilles heel. Big Achilles heel.
It lost us a playoff series, and now like it's like we're blowing out the Wizards in the regular season, and we can't even hold on to that lead. Like, we need to start like keeping our foot on the gas from tip to the end.
Yeah, you're right. We get cocky. You could see it in the body language, especially in this Wizards game. We thought this team was down and out, and we're turning the ball over. We're taking hot dog shots. Like we just don't care. They just took their and listen. If you ever played for especially a hard ass coach, like you know that there's no taking your foot off the gas. That even if you're up by 20, if you start doing that, you're gonna get taken out of the game. And something occurred to me. An epiphany came over me when I realized that the Steelers were gonna get blown out, and a total brain aneurysm, like a total shock. This little wave of depression hit me. But in the midst of that, some clarity came through because I was thinking about Coach Tomlin and how a lot of people say he's a player's coach, he's a cheerleader, and I was just like, I've always wanted to defend this guy. But then I realized something. Brad Stevens, he might be the Tomlin of the NBA. He's a player's coach. The guys like him. But does he let too many things slip away? Is he letting people get careless? Like the Steelers playing down to the competition every game. Is he letting us? Like when we have a 20-point lead and the guys are all pumped up their hypes, we're about to get another win. He's not the guy who's going to be authoritarian in that moment. And I don't want him to be a cheerleader when we're up by 20 against a playoff team. And I want him to be hard on this team. These young guys, they need an authoritative figure. And as much as I like Tomlin, as much as I like Brad Stevens, as much as players really like him, I need to see more toughness. I can't see something about I feel Brad Stevens would be okay with Tatum doing TikToks on the Wizards logo before the game. I feel like he wouldn't say anything. And I don't want that. I want a guy who's going to put down the hammer. Maybe I'm crazy for saying this.
I haven't tolerated Brad Stevens hate ever, but now that it's been a couple of years and I'm starting to listen to the arguments a little more, and I hear you.
He's great. Don't get me wrong. He's great, just like Tomlin.
I like during the Raptors game, we put in the bench unit with 4 minutes left, and it was a 20-point game, and the bench unit was just not getting it done, and it got to be a 10-point game with a minute and a half left, and Brad looked pissed, and he got up, called a timeout. He pointed at all the starters, said, get back in. And with a minute left, Jason Tatum checked back into the game up 10, and we beat the Raptors by 12. And I just liked, it wasn't the starters blowing a lead. It was the bench unit, so that was a little better. And then Brad got really mad, and then he sent all the starters out again. And sending the starters out again was an ego hit to guys like Pritchard and Teague and Carson Edwards and Tremont or whatever who was out there. But at the same time, it's also a message of okay, we're not just having fun out here. We're trying to win a game, and it was nice to see that.
Yeah, give me more. Give me
more strict Brad. It would have been beautiful to watch Brad coach this team without the guys we lost for COVID. During about 5 minutes ago, I just got a notification that Wednesday's game is also canceled. Which is it's tough to see because all right, we lost Tatum and Robert Williams to positive tests. They both tested positive. Jaylen Brown, Grant Williams, Semi Ojeleye, Javonte Green, Tristan Thompson, they're all out because of exposure. So that's going to be 5 to 7 days. They have to just produce a couple negative tests because the NBA found that they were in close enough contact with these two. It doesn't make sense to me that half our team is on the COVID list and half of it isn't. And Bradley Beal's on the COVID list, but no one else in the Wizards. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. But what would have happened if they let us play was that Pritchard, Teague, Smart, Tremont, Naismith, Tice, Tacko, and I guess Carson Edwards, those 8 guys would have had to hold down the fort and play for us. I was so hyped. I was so excited to see Tacko play 30 minutes, just 4 point guards and Tacko out there. We have so many point guards on this team. It's ridiculous. But, I wanted to see Peyton Pritchard and Carson Edwards go put up 20 shots. I wanted to see what certain guys on this team had. Naismith was going to get some real NBA minutes, having to play. He's our only small forward. And they won't let us play. They won't let it happen. And I'm kind of confused because they're canceling the games because we don't have 8 eligible players, which the Sixers had 7 players and they let them play. And I think that was looked down upon. So now they're saying if you don't have 8 players, you can't play. But by my count, you've got Pritchard, Teague, Smart, Tremont Waters, Carson Edwards, Naismith, Tice, Tacko. That's 8 guys. All of those guys are not on the injury report. So I think maybe we're putting fatigue on the injury report so we don't have to play. But I think that what's actually happening is the NBA is kind of rethinking their COVID protocols of like, all right, we're going to let these 8 guys play. They're going to get blown out. And also they might have COVID because why would Grant Williams have COVID, but Marcus Smart doesn't? It doesn't make any sense.
No, for sure. And you're right. It doesn't. This is like, dude, I remember one of my good friends from home camp, he got food poisoning. And the reason why he got food poisoning is because there's this bagel and there's mold on it. And he said, yeah, you just pick it off. I'm like, no, if there's a little bit of mold on the bagel, it's all bad. It's all bad. It's the same thing here. If 3 guys on the team have COVID, guess what? Like, maybe more than 3 people on the team like have it. And maybe not half the team should be out there playing 5-on-5 basketball when we were afraid of playing pickup basketball in the summer because of the same damn reason. And we were outside. So it doesn't make any sense. I think they did try to make an example of the Sixers, kind of like how the NFL made an example of the Broncos. And they made them go play out with 7 players and it didn't turn out well and whatnot. And I think that's not going to be the case going forward. On the other hand, I completely agree with you. I was excited because at the end of the day, we don't need to be first. We're playing this season on with the hopes that Kemba's coming back, that this trade exception is going to produce a high quality player. If we would take 4th, we would take 3rd in the East right now, happily, and knowing that we're going to get better. So if we throw out, the B team and we get to see what Pritchard's got if he's a starter, we get to see what Tacko's got if he has to play a whole game. That's just beneficial for us.
It is.
Yeah, we lose nothing. And especially now that we've built up this little bit of a cushion in the East, I'm not really worried if we have to play a game with the B squad. In fact, I think it's a great way to see what we got. Now, is it like the league's not letting us play? Man, like the universe ain't letting us play. Like, the COVID's not letting us play, and I understand that. But I really do think that there's going to be this period as we ease back into games that we're not going to have everyone there. And we're going to be able, just like Tacko showed against the Wizards, we're going to see that maybe we have some more depth than we thought.
Yeah, I would have loved to see these games happen to get more of an idea of that. But the COVID problem is a problem. Like, maybe these guys do have COVID and we shouldn't be letting them play. I know the NBA and the Players Association met the other day. I wonder if Kyrie was there. He's a vice president. Whatever.
Oh, no. He's personal stuff right now.
They met to just talk about the protocols because, I low key when Robert Williams got it, I was like, I hope that if Tatum and Brown are gonna get it, they get it now and not in April. I guess.
Yeah.
And just they're saying they might do a pause, a 14-day pause on the league to figure the situation out. I hope it doesn't come to that. Baseball and football, I guess, had more people on the roster, so it worked out better. But this is the reality we live in. If COVID's not going to go away, I'd rather watch us get to play than have us I don't know, have to pause the season for a month. I don't know.
From a fan's perspective, it blows. From a fan's perspective, it blows. But I will say that if we do get delayed 2 weeks, it's not the biggest deal because then the finals we have a long summer still. And we're showing right now that we can have a 2-month off season and still have another season start. So I'm not really worried about we push the season back 2 weeks. So, we can make it work. It's going to work. And next season's going to be intact. And that's really what matters. But yeah, if this whole thing pans out the way I think it's going to, a lot of players are going to test positive. It's not going to be pretty. But the hard truth, it's a hard truth, but it's a good truth that in theory, in 3 months or 2 months, it'd be mostly resolved, right? A lot of the players have already had it.
Some of the players that had it back in March got it again, which is not awesome news. But yeah, the players that get it now are not going to have it again this year, hopefully. It's not a fun situation to deal with, but I hope we can play basketball again. But I think it'll be fine. The NBA is $1 billion business. Baseball played their season. Football played their season. The NBA, I feel isn't going to just fall apart. Despite the efforts of COVID, despite the efforts of players like Kyrie Irving, who think that we should all just walk away from the game. I do want to get into, since we didn't have that many games, talk about our opponents in the Eastern Conference. At the beginning of the season, we said the 4 biggest teams to watch out for were the Bucks, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Heat. The Bucks and the Sixers are playing well. They're both 7-4. They're both chasing us for the 1 seed. That is as to be expected. The Sixers with Seth Curry and their new lineups, when they've
They
all
look
been
good.
healthy, they look good. They do look good. They don't scare me still because they're the Sixers, but I will say that the moves they made to get rid of Horford and get a point guard and get shooters, like, they did all the right things. They got a new coach. Like, they did everything right they had to do, and it's been showing. The Bucks as well. Like, the Bucks built some new pieces. 7-4 isn't like amazing, but the Bucks are doing well. The Heat are 4-4, which is frustrating to me personally, because I've always believed the Heat are like a 4 seed in terms of talent and how the NBA should work, but they can be the 4 seed and then go to the finals. We've seen. So the Heat will be the Heat.
They had the shortest
last
break.
year. They had the short. That's true. Jimmy Butler looks like he's hurting.
He looks
out
tired.
there.
He looks tired.
Yeah. So I'll cut them some slack. Everyone else gets slack except for the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets came out and they looked like the Warriors, and everyone was freaking out. Me included, kind of. Spencer Dinwiddie unfortunately got hurt. I liked that guy. And then they lost some games fully healthy. They lost some games. They're 5-6. They lost some games when KD had to go down because of the COVID protocol. And they lost again the other day because they got KD back, but Kyrie Irving is nowhere to be found. Kyrie Irving was absent. They said he's, quote, off the grid. It happened the day after the storming of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C., which we know that Kyrie tries to be a politically motivated and led person. And if his reasoning, if Kyrie Irving comes out with a statement like, I'm not playing because of the way of what happened on January 6th, and he had some reasoning for it, and like, this is what, like, I think that by not playing, I can serve this good, and in the 3 hours I would have been playing basketball, I can be doing this instead and helping the community. He has been silent, said nothing. The team has had very little contact with him. Doesn't talk to Pons. Apparently a video has surfaced of him at a family party not wearing a mask, which again, like, is tough. Like, you don't want the NBA, you don't want the NBA following you around in your life, and you go to your sister's birthday party and then you're in trouble. But it's also hard to say that I'm Kyrie Irving and I am like an NBA player and I'm a political activist and I care about all these things, and you're just skipping basketball to hang out with the family and you don't give a damn about your fans or your teammates.
Yeah, no, I did see the video, and I want to hold off complete judgment until we know exactly what is going on. But I think someone said it in the comments, like, the best, like the first reply of like the tweet that I saw the video at, is there's this notion, it's like, oh, like, the media hates Kyrie, and Kyrie, he gets such a bad rep. And it, like, no, it's because he's an idiot. It's because all this fake deep BS that he tries to put on doesn't make anybody happy. Doesn't make, half the time it's not even making sense. And he does stuff like this that rubs people the wrong way, and he wants there to be no repercussions because he's Kyrie Irving. And guess what? That's not reality. I don't know what reality he's living in, but this one isn't it. The Nets, you're right. They came out, they looked strong, especially at full strength. They're definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I think they still are. But this has been kind of the worst case scenario first 10 games to them. It's exactly
we said day one, we said on paper, they're the Warrior. Like, on paper, they're the best team in the league, but you have to put Kyrie Irving out there and like let this team find success. And 10 games in, they're struggling.
It's just like Spencer getting hurt. Obviously, people don't realize the pace at which they played was only possible because they had a starting lineup with like basically 4 ball handlers. That's not the case anymore. That really hurts what they're trying to do, especially when you have guys like Steve Nash and D'Antoni trying to run what they're trying to run. I'm sure that he was a big part of that. So let's put that aside and just look at the Kyrie situation. He's already kind of back on his BS, which I'm sure is not guys like Jared Allen, guys like Dinwiddie, guys like LeVert, who've been on this team for a while now, who don't have any sympathy for these newcomers in KD and Kyrie. Like, this is going to rub them the wrong way. This isn't going to be something that they just overlook, and it's going to cause some chemistry problems. So not only am I worried about their record right now, I'm worried about what this team's going to look like. Are they going to pull a Clippers and never really have that chemistry and the playoffs come? Then you're caught off guard because Your players don't even like each other. It's possible. It's possible. And I'm going to be, dude, even with how you might feel about Kyrie or KD, like, I wanted this team to be good. I really did. It was exciting. It was fun. I don't know. It doesn't look like we're going to get the version of the Nets that we thought we were going to get.
They've got Joe Harris off the bench and Karis LeVert and Jeff Green. Like they're still a deep team, and that's what we said. Like on paper, they're so scary because they are 10 guys deep. Like they're super deep, they have good interior defenders. But the team, their biggest problem so far has been not playing defense, and
yep.
It's like the Clippers.
Steve Nash and D'Antoni couldn't get them to play defense.
Yeah. The Clippers and the Lakers were the two teams last year everyone talked about, but the Lakers are like a team. Like that team fights for each other, and like LeBron is a leader, whereas the Clippers, their leader is either Kawhi Leonard, who's silent, or Paul George, who loses all credibility. And to win in the playoffs, you have to be a team and work together and all those things. And the Brooklyn Nets, like, if you threw them into a playoff series right now, I feel like they'd all turn on each other. Like no one's playing defense. Like their point guard is either going to put up 50 or just bitch everyone out and not show up. Like who's the leader on the Brooklyn Nets? It's got to be like DeAndre Jordan or something. Like to win in the playoffs in the NBA, you have to be a team. You have to have guys at the helm that are leading you in the right direction. And their leader of this team is at a birthday party in Brooklyn while the team is off trying to win basketball games. And so as a Celtics fan, the Brooklyn Nets are exactly where I expected and hoped they would be. So I love it.
I mean, if you expected to be here, then I commend you. But you're right. They do have the same problems as Clippers. I think KD is kind of similar to Kawhi. Very talented player, but I don't think he's a vocal leader. And they're going to need one. And if Kyrie's saying that Steve Nash is the head coach one day, and one day it could be him, and one day it could be KD, I don't see where this is going to go anywhere but down. So we'll see. We'll see. Dude, they could very well finish with a better record than us when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
They're that talented, but man, it would hurt for me to be a Brooklyn Nets fan, have all this hype, and be like, maybe we're better without this whole fiasco. If we had D'Angelo Russell, yeah, and people were dancing, maybe we're better. It's definitely being talked about.
All right, so before we go, we'll look ahead to this next week of games that hopefully, fingers crossed, are going to happen. We were supposed to play the Magic on Wednesday, no longer. We're supposed to play the Magic again on Friday. I'm really hoping that on Friday, like it's been a long time since all this COVID stuff's come out. We'll have maybe some guys get out of the protocol, or at least the 8 guys we have, maybe we'll finally suit up and play.
We'll have enough
hopefully.
To play.
Yeah. And I don't want to place predictions on that game right now because I don't know if I'm predicting how we do with Jaylen Brown and company or Carson Edwards and company. But I'll say that whatever happens, we've been dying to play. So we're going to come out and we're going to fight. And I'm excited to watch us play whenever that is. The Knicks, I don't know how to treat the Knicks anymore because they're the Knicks, but they're doing well this year. I'm going to say we beat the Knicks. And then the Sixers next week will be tough without a starting caliber team. But again, I think we're hungry to play and we're hot. So I think we can win all these games.
No, I do too. I think the Magic, their record is what it is, largely because of Markelle Fultz. And they don't have him anymore, unfortunately. Prayers up for him. He looked really good before the injury. Not that he looked like the number 1 pick, but he looked like a really solid player. It looked like he was finally putting it together. So that was pretty sad. But I don't think we're looking at the same Magic team. I think we match up pretty well against them. I think that's a 2-game sweep. The Knicks, I'm be honest, Dylan, we do not match up well against the Knicks. We do not. I don't think we have enough big guys to throw out Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson and Randall. They play really well inside. And us not being able to contain Sabonis in any way whatsoever, it just makes you nervous anytime we play a good power forward or a good center. And they got both of them. They're playing with a lot of heart. They really believe in Tom Thibodeau's system. I think this is like a trap. This is a trap 2-game series for us, the Knicks, because it's the Knicks. But they're playing well. We don't match up particularly well against them. I honestly think that I give us a better chance of beating the Sixers twice than being the Knicks twice. Call me crazy.
No, I won't call you crazy because, I agree. With Randall and Obi and Mitchell, there's an inside presence they have that we just don't. And if we have all our guys, we have Tatum and Brown, then we'll just, outshoot them. But If it's like our bench guys scrapping against them, that's a little more of an even playing field. And we have five active point guards in our 8-man rotation, so it'd be a tough game to win if we don't get some reinforcements back.
Time to make some trades, Danny. Time to make some trades.
And then the Sixers, they've been without Embiid and Simmons for like a week. They like have been on the injury list, so we'll see how injured they are and how injured we are. It's hard to predict things week out with the way the NBA is and the Celtics are right now.
Yeah. And before we get off, I do want to quickly say about the Sixers. The biggest thing for them, the team finally makes a little bit of sense. The thing about the Sixers that, like, no matter how talented they were, the team just didn't make any sense. It just didn't work. Especially when we beat them without Kyrie and Gordon Hayward that year. That the most shameful Sixers series loss, even more shameful than the sweep we gave them last year. You could just tell this team made no sense. And the damage that Elton Brand did in the short amount of time he was there was noticeable. And finally, with the right guys coaching and the right guys managing this whole thing, Daryl Morey, they make sense. So I'm scared of them.
Yep. I'm a little more scared than maybe day one because their system is working, but they are still the 76ers, and I don't know if we'll get them at full strength or we'll be at full strength next Wednesday. But the next time we're both at full strength, I'm still taking us.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, in summation, we had a good week of games until everything hit the fan. And I'm kind of just if we're going to have to play with 8 guys, I want to just see it happen. I'm done with these canceled games. Just give me some more Celtics basketball. But hopefully Jason and Rob Williams are resting up and they are not affected too much by COVID.
Yeah.
Should be a fun time whenever we get to play these games. Hopefully that happens this week. Praying for that. But I like where we are. So until next time, signing off. Dylan McCaffrey here. Go Celtics. James, any final words you got?
Man,
go Celtics.
By the time we do this next podcast, I just hope we have one game to talk about. That's all I'm going to say.
We've been praying for Tacko every night. We just didn't know that praying for Tacko was going to cost us 9 starters.
The whole season, yeah. But all right, take care, everybody. Stay safe. Yeah, stay safe. That's the biggest thing.
Hopefully Tacko can come and make us forget all these miseries. Peace out.
Sir.